Great, Chris Thompson back at
Hello.
the London Marathon. Chris, when someone says, what does it mean to run the London Marathon, what's the first thing that kind of goes through your head?
Being part of it's a historical event, and to me, one of the biggest road races in the world. So I think the badge of honour to run London is one of the just to physically run it, ignoring your performance and all that, is a real badge of honour. I mean, when I ran my first one, that was the thing that shocked me the most. Was, as an elite athlete, all you're worried about is performance. You judge yourself on how you run, the position you finish. I finished in 2014, my first event, and for that week I was really emotional. I said to my coach Alan Story, who's still my coach, I feel really emotional, I don't know why. And he said, yeah, you completed a marathon, you completed London. It knocks you in a way that you don't quite realise. My mum's running her first marathon ever, and so first London ever on Sunday, and just seeing her kind of excitement in the build up to it kind of helps me get excited, because it's just the cool bit of just being part of something like this can sometimes be forgotten when you're trying to perform. And so very long-winded answer as I normally do, but it's just it's got all those components that I think sometimes that makes reminds you how special running is and being part of an event.
I mean, you're on the stage with Mo and Emil there, and obviously.
Well, they're on the stage with me, but yeah.
Yeah. Like you and Mo obviously kind of at the latter end, but Emil, starting up. How have you kind of viewed the evolution of as you said, the shoe tech, kind of marathon running, marathon training, and you're talking about the advice that maybe you had when you were kind of starting out would be a bit different to the advice that people were getting out.
I think it's a completely different event. I think my first marathon in 2014, I ran 2:11, and I took a lot of my 5k, 10k intensity mindset in training into the marathon, which was really tough because obviously the shoe tech didn't give you as much ability to recover from these things, and so I was pushing hard. I was failing a lot in sessions, and I put it a lot down to, and back then you had to put it a lot down to adapting to marathon training, and you never ran your fastest one in your first one out. You needed 2 or 3 under your belt before your body let you go, in a way. But now, I mean, even for me, I'm doing stuff in training that I have to take with a pinch of salt, because it's not a true reflection of what really I can do and what I can do when I actually get into a race scenario. You're getting much closer to race speeds within a session. You're getting much closer to doing PB sessions even my age, and it's not. You've got to be. For me, I've got to be careful that that's not how I deal with that and how I work with that to get the best out of myself on the day. And to be honest with you, this will only be like a second race in super shoes, and actually the first race training in them. Like, I've tried to not overdo it in them because my body's kind of used to not.
I was about to say, how's that adjustment been for you?
It's been a shock to the system. It's been it's really confused me, because, like I say, so for instance, to put it into context, you can feel when you're hitting a red line in training and give yourself. So me and Alan tend to work off after a session. We don't talk about the session as much. We go, how many days recovery do you need? Do you need 1, 2, 3 or 4? I'm finishing sessions and I can't read it. I cannot read what I need, and I'm coming back after 2 days and doing stuff and going, that shouldn't be possible. But that doesn't necessarily mean it adds up to a great race. It's just, you have to do more. That's the thing. You have to do more in training, but it has to be at a much higher intensity.
Yeah.
And it's finding that balance. And I didn't know until I got 3 or 4 miles into a session on one particular day before I bonked, and I didn't see it coming. And because I can't quite get the feedback, and so again, how I approach this race, I'm kind of having to be a bit open-minded, because I don't exactly know how to massage the race to get the most. So it's all in some ways it's been great for me because I feel a little bit reborn, a little bit see what happens, a little bit discovery in there, and I think that's for me.
Yeah.
It's an exciting thing, but I definitely think when you talk to someone like Amelia, that was an athlete I used to coach. Bless her. Emil, sorry. I think he needs to be very open-minded because I think athletes are pushing boundaries in a way and even they're still learning. I mean, even watching Boston Marathon, I think a lot of athletes, when they're pre-race, they're talking about sessions they're doing, and it's incredible.
I was about to say, like, does that almost add an extra couple of years on what you could potentially do in the distance? Kind of, how do you reflect on like the journey that you've had in the sport as well from that?
Well, this is what I'm finding. I think again, I'm kind of in my mind. I'm kind of trying to create a bit of a trailblazing mindset of, there has been the odd pocket of athletes in their 40s that have done things, but generally life gets in the way, and that's why historically athletes and you get more beaten up, but the shoes are helping older athletes stay in the game, and I'm kind of just off the back of what I kind of feel I could discover, because obviously working with On Running, my sponsor and who I do work with, that part of what I'm doing is trying to discover and trying to help on athletes figure out the best way of doing things, and working with the shoe tech and going, right, well, how can we push boundaries? And I think the best way for you to learn is, or for me to learn to then pass on, is to actually do it. So this whole build up in this race is going to be a massive block of almost like an experiment for me to see what I discover a little bit, and then I want to use that. So I want a good year. Last year was just frustrating, and this year I'm kind of hoping this will springboard.
I was about to say, if this goes well, how long do you think you can go? Because you look at like Tom Brady at 45, and he was still, competing at a high level.
But he's not quite the level of athlete I am. But I mean, God, you got to have tongue in cheek. Yeah, but again, I mean, with that as well, that's impact. I mean, that's pretty brutal on the body. I mean, it's hard. It's always hard to compare age and sports. Very difficult. But I think. For me, Honor given me the opportunity to kind of discover and figure out how far I can push this, and so I'm trying. That's exactly what I'm doing. I've not come here to be an old athlete just trying to get around. I'm here to compete. I'm here to use this to springboard myself into other things for the rest of the year. I'm seeing myself as someone with a genuine chance to run well and do things, and I think the side product of that will help me understand a bit more what the next generation is going to go through, and what the next to expect from the next generation, and how I can help them, because I want to stay in the sport, I want to stay relevant, and I think a lot of the stuff I used to do is not as relevant. Usually generations you filter out the crap and keep the good, and that's how generations improve. But more so than ever, what I went through, there's a lot of stuff now because of the way things have changed.
So coaching seems an obvious
I think
progression then in that sense.
I mean, I think I've dipped my toe in coaching, and I think there'll always be an affinity for wanting to keep that side of my brain operational. Whether it's like a full-time, I don't think it'll ever be a full-time profession for me in any stretch, but I like keeping my mind sharp and keeping my mind relevant, hence why and Alan Story's always said to me, even now, I mean, Alan is the age he's at and the ability he's got, he changes his training methods, and one of his greatest assets is he uses his running knowledge and understands the athlete to come up with the best program for them, and I've never seen anyone quite like it. He's so good. But even now he talks to me about, I'd love an athlete that I could experiment with that has the ability to do this. Like right now, if you find an athlete that can tolerate a lot of mileage and a lot of running, and you add these shoes in, which is why I think Emil is a very exciting prospect, because the guy he's got the work ethic, he's clearly got an ability in there, and I
was about to say, like, finishing off, like, what do you think of firstly Emil and Mo, of course, both at different ends of their career?
Yeah. What do I think?
What do you think of the two of them as athletes? What Mo's done for the sport, and then what Emil can do for the sport as well.
I think I said this when me and Emil were talking. I don't. You're never going to see in my lifetime, possibly ever. I mean, in 100 years, who knows where the planet, I'll be dead. But I don't see anytime soon an athlete achieving what Mo did on the track. I don't think we'll ever see it again. And so in that regard, you kind of go, you have to put Mo in a different box to expectation from any, not just a British athlete, but any athlete in the world. Mo is a different entity. As far as Emil and potential to be successful as a British athlete, I think he's got all the hallmarks of someone that could do huge things. The biggest problem he's got is that I think one of the biggest problems is there are so many races now, there are so many different events, as in World Championships, World Road Track, there's so many different things. You can market yourself in a way unlike ever before. It was kind of set out when I was a junior. You had your European Cross, the World Cross, a track championship, whatever age group you were. There's tons of stuff. The marathon majors are as big as a world championships.
Yeah.
You've got the Olympics every 4. I mean, there's so much there, and the hardest thing he'll have is how he markets himself, what races he puts himself. Even when you think about a lot of athletes stay away from slow races, competitive races, and only run fast races, and run again. That's part of it, because like it or not, if you've got, I don't know, a 2:05 marathon PB or a 2:09, people don't look at what course it was set on. You could have been a Berlin to a New York.
Yeah.
But that's where for him it's going to be. It's very difficult to get. I think for an athlete to stay big all the time, because unless you're someone like Mo who's got those events, I think it's very difficult for an athlete to kind of. There's always someone trying to find a way to outshine it in a different way. I don't know if I'm making sense, but do you get what I mean? Which is great for the sport. There's so much stuff, but I think he will have a job having that level of exposure. But I think he could. He's an exciting road running prospect, and I'm intrigued to see. I mean, I hope we see Callum Hawkins back. Imagine him, Callum Hawkins, and a Mark Scott who's going to go. Imagine them at World Champs. That could be a world medal, a team medal. You know what I mean? So we'll see. There's some exciting stuff in there. I'm still around just for a little bit longer, and then I will just leave them all to it.